When I say holiday, what comes to mind? Maybe New York? Or perhaps a tropical getaway? Well, what if I told you there are people who seek the road less travelled for their vacation? This is a phenomenon called dark tourism, and it's allowing people to scratch a morbid itch by travelling to places like the catacombs of Paris or Cambodia's killing fields. What drives someone down that dark path? This is death tourism. They're the sites of atrocities, disasters, death and destruction. And we may not even know it. From sites like the 9/11 Memorial or the Auschwitz concentration camp, people are making the worst parts of history a piece or even the entire point of their vacation.
I'm Nikolina Kowewska-Karufe and I'm a travel expert. So dark tourism is all about visiting places where the darkest events of human history have unfolded. So this could be anything from assassinations, genocide, it could be war or disaster, natural or accidental. And it's all about visiting these places with a fascination on what happened, the history behind it, and what's occurring there as we speak as well.
And people are putting aside cocktails on the beach to visit locations that are home to some of the darkest chapters in human history.
So some of the more popular attractions include, of course, Auschwitz, there's Chernobyl, there's Berlin Wall, which is actually a really popular destination to visit, but you don't actually realize it actually is touching into that dark tourism theme. There's the killing fields in Cambodia, and in these particular places, there are tourist groups that have allocated themselves in organizing tours just to give a bit more insight into what happened and the history behind the place and really give people the experience of what happened there.
And even if you don't consider yourself a dark tourist, you may even fall into the trap of venturing to some of these places.
There's also lesser known dark tourism spots, and these could be places where you can visit yourself that you don't even realize. It could be cemeteries, it could be things like historical museums as well, and even houses where they open, some families open their doors into houses where previously a family may have been murdered. There's many an array of different places and also tourism destinations that fit into this category of dark tourism.
Let's take one of the most macabre tourist hotspots, the Chernobyl Exclusion Zone. The atrocities of that fateful night in 1986 are etched into the brains of so many. 31 people lost their lives and many more people were affected by radiation spilling into much of Europe. It's since become the site of tour groups, travelling through the abandoned village, where nature is coming back to life.
It was found last year 80% of the visitors said that they were fans of the show, and that's what sparked their interest in visiting this place. Similar to in 2014, actually, with The Interview, that was a movie by Seth Rogen and James Franco, which was all about North Korea and North Korea's leader. Well, that actually sparked a tourism, not just in North Korea, but mostly in South Korea.
And as you would imagine, it's hard to get figures on the number of people travelling to these places. Some online tour guides cover 1,000 sorrowful places in 116 different countries. The concept of dark tourism is not a new phenomenon. In fact, tourists were once flocking to the battlefields during the Napoleonic Wars. Teeth and bullets were collected as mementos and even sold soon afterwards. So what type of person goes to these places?
I think this is a quite special experience for me. It's not traveling by just like shopping or see the nice scenic spot, but here I can really see something but not common for the other tourists. I didn't tell my parents, but my friends say that I'm mad, I'm crazy. Why you go there?
My name is Sue Firth and I'm a business psychologist. Even though the concept of dark tourism sounds rather sad, there are a couple of reasons why people might be attracted to doing this. You probably remember when you were at school, you were taken around with another group of young children in order to be able to learn or an education piece. And sadly, these may very well have included some really horrendous historical events. The second one, genuinely, is that there are some very astonishing key people in our dark past who have had the ability to influence a massive group of other followers. Think Hitler, think Pol Pot in terms of the killing fields of Cambodia. I think the third reason, to be frank, is that people are attracted on some level to things that are very sad or very macabre.
And it's these reasons why we place ourselves into the shoes of history. How would we respond? What would we do? They're the questions we tend to ask ourselves as we step into a world away from normal and ramp up that adrenaline.
You actually do get quite a hit when you go to these places. There's something that is a very visceral, emotional and physical feeling when you view something, and especially if it is intensely sad, very depressing. These are very extreme ends of our emotional spectrum, and they cause and change chemical triggers in the body.
History buffs may take a road trip to Civil War battlefields, or a backpacker may head to the Colosseum in Rome. Others may go for the road less travelled, to the near-abandoned parts near the Fukushima power plant disaster in Japan.
本当にシーンという音が聞こえるほどのこの街に音がなかった。
And some companies are helping these budding tourists to get there.
I mean, all businesses exist because they want to make money, and sadly, like it or not, they are going to position these kind of visits in a light which suggests that it will be fascinating, interesting, macabre. Have you ever been interested in the dark? Yes. And there'll be a curious group of people who are actually locked onto that and think, yeah, I'd like to go see that. And it's immensely sad, and it should be positioned as something that we do not want to repeat in our history. So I think there needs to be the fair share of a more appropriate representation of visiting these places.
It does raise a string of risks around safety and the question of what happens if something goes wrong.
It's kind of like a bungee jump. You need to sign a waiver. You need to be prepared of the impacts of going on one of these tours and experiencing dark tourism. It is important to check whether your travel insurance company actually covers these particular places.
Many travellers believe these sites tell us what it's like to be human.
I even lived in Germany for quite some time because my father was in the army, but I felt no attraction at going to Auschwitz, because it just makes me feel immensely sad. So that's the reaction it gives me. If anything, it actually takes my chemistry down. So it's not a visceral excitement at all.
And there's no question the phenomenon is becoming more sensationalised.
The danger with sensationalizing these places and dark tourism just off the bat of pop culture series and movies and people being, I guess, triggered on social media, even with these particular places, is that we really need to be respectful of the cultures.
This is thanks to one particular Netflix series.
We can sit down and watch a film, which might even be the rendition, for example, of the Twin Towers, and we can watch that, and we can watch it right through from beginning to end, and still not be desensitized to all of that, because it is so horrendous, so horrific. And even though we all know what it looked like, and we all know what happened, we might very genuinely be affected by it to the point where it's very emotional and very painful for us. But what's happening chemically is also a hit there. But if that's short, it doesn't mean we want to keep reliving it.
As these places grow with popularity online too, they may invite insensitive behaviour. Smiling selfies at concentration camps have been criticised on social media, and tourist agencies caution against this behaviour. What is encouraged though is respect and education, so we may better understand these atrocities.